Buenos días, campeones. Buenos días, campeones. Buenos días, campeones. Welcome to our show. Oh, buenos días, campeones. Buenos días, campeones. Buenos días, campeones. Welcome to our show.
So I think today I get to be the one to welcome you to the show because we have two people we can't see right now. And if you remember, a few weeks ago, they filmed the show and they had me wear a paper bag on my head. And I issued a complaint saying no one else had to wear a bag on their head. So Mr. Barton and Mr. Higgins, who we actually can't see, I don't think he knows it because he has a bag on his head, are under those bags being good sports to make me feel better about having to wear a bag on my head. Thanks, guys.
Buenos dias.
Yeah.
Where are you, Mr. Higgins?
So I didn't know that my iPad was giving me a low battery warning because I had a bag on my head and I couldn't see that.
Perfect.
Uh-huh.
And you know how our show rolls. We just keep on rolling. We could,
Part of the show.
we're at the very beginning. We could easily start all over again and do that,
No.
but I don't know.
It would be so easy.
It would be so easy.
No.
Oh, well, good morning. Good morning, Miss Townley. How are you?
I am fantastic. How are you guys?
Good.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to find a charger, so let's hear about how Mr. Barton is.
Okay.
I'm pretty good. We're recording this on a Monday. And yeah, so we just had the weekend, and I had a good weekend.
Yeah, me too.
Did you do anything fun or?
We played in the creek. You know, we live kind of out in Fairview where there's lots of space. And so there is like a kind of a run up this mountain most days, kind of up a mountain and back down. The top of that mountain, there's a big like kind of creek and it flows down the whole way. So we went both days to there and made, you know, rock castles and fairy houses and the like.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mhm.
Yeah. It might seem silly, but I installed a gutter and then we ran that gutter to a rain barrel, and that was actually very exciting. Just the notion of now we're going to have this rain barrel as a source of water. So anyway.
Yeah, I think projects are awesome. We've gotten a lot done here too.
Did you do anything fun, Mr. Higgins?
I did a lot of painting. Played with the kids. Sorry, there's a small child trying to get past me here. So that was fun. Got several paintings done. Painting is in house, which I should have been doing instead, but whatever. I got time.
That's right. Well, Ms. Townley, we had Miss Udi on the other day, and Miss Udi's one of the OG Imagine staffers. So she took us a little bit down a trip, a memory lane trip, and so we thought it would be fun to go to like the source, like the OG of our school, and maybe just have you tell us a little bit about how our school started, how everything began.
Sure. Okay. So I'll do as a condensed version as I can, I think. So back in the day, I think it had to be, I would say 2012, 2013 probably would be the year. I was actually, I was finishing up my master's degree for education leadership at the time, and had been, you know, teaching for a long time in traditional public schools, and was feeling, the reason I was getting my master's in leadership is because I kind of felt like I'd accomplished what I could in a classroom, and, you know, what next step, like how could I have a different or greater effect. And so at that time though, I was also feeling like there was like no space to be innovative. And then there was sort of a crash course, at that same time of some folks who wanted to get another charter school started in Asheville. As you know, there was very little choice. And so they reached out for educators from Asheville to help with that. And I heard the call and went and was like, yeah, I think this is an awesome idea. So that's sort of the how, where, why did I get involved? Why did the school start? So from there, there's just this whole process you have to do anytime you want to open a charter school. At the time, there had been a limit of how many there could be in North Carolina, and the legislature changed that. And so that is why there was a chance to open another charter school. You just couldn't have any more at that point until then.
Oh.
And so when you want to open a school, you have to fill out a pretty intense application. I think it's about 70 or 80 pages that you end up submitting. It was just as long as the work I did for my master's, actually. And then after that, the State Board of Education evaluates, they do some interviews, and then they are like, okay, yes, you can do it, but you have to figure out all these things that you said you would figure out, including where you're going to do school, which is a toughie, I can tell you. And then you have kind of that year to figure it all out, and you go to, over the course of the year, you do this whole like ready to open process with the State Board of Education, where they train you on how to do all these crazy things. And meanwhile, you try to figure out where you're going to do school. So as you know, we figured out we were going to do school in a Kmart shopping center. I cried the first time that I left there, just so you know, because that was so terrifying that we might do school there.
Oh, because
it didn't look anything.
Yeah, because you were worried about. Yeah.
I was worried about all the things that were going to happen when I tried to do school in a shopping center. And it did not look like it did when we did school there at all at the time. If you can remember, the very center classroom, which was many people's classroom, it was Miss Mitchell's science classroom. It was Miss Lawfer's second grade classroom. It was a third grade classroom in year 2. I can't remember all the classrooms it was, but in the very center, that was dirt.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And that was the scariest part. It actually turned out to be one of my favorite classrooms in the building. But anyway, so we looked at lots of different spaces, and we're trying to figure out, how do you build a campus when you have, you don't have any capital yet, and you don't have any credit yet. So we did figure that out, and then got a pretty amazing group of 18 people together that were willing to sort of take that on. And I think truly the school didn't take shape until that happened. So at the very beginning, we did this sort of the first time the whole staff came together. We couldn't be in that building yet, and it was just a couple weeks before school opened. So we sort of did this giant PD, and then we were supposed to go over to the school, and we still don't have the certificate of occupancy. So we went to the Green Sage in South Asheville, and we set up shop there. The whole staff. We wrote our master schedule just a couple days before school started in that Green Sage. And we got in, we had to delay our open house and got into the building a few hours before we pulled off that open house, which was very well attended. And we hadn't figured out that it might be good to stagger arrivals. So we had all 350 families come at once. And it was really a lot. And I actually cried again after that, because I thought that no one was going to come to school after our kind of crazy open house. And I'm sure there's families watching that remember that. But anyway, everybody came to school the next day. And that's sort of the beginning of the beginning. Before we even made it to the Green Sage, though, there was a sort of a shop set up in my house, which I don't know if Miss Udy talked about that or not. But at one point at my dining room table, Miss Udy, Miss Girardi, and I spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out a lot of things that summer. So I'm sure Miss Udy especially remembers that dining room table. So, anyway, I've sold it now to a different dining room table.
Well,
so that's the very beginning.
Yeah, and Mr. Higgins and I came the second year, but we always refer to those times as the wild, wild west. Even though our second year was there was still some kind of wild things going on.
Oh, yes.
There was still some sagebrush blowing about, we'll say.
There definitely was. I in fact think that our second year was the hardest year of school for us employees. Because we grew a lot. We doubled in size. Part of, accomplishing what we said we were going to accomplish in our school and building our building was growing. to a certain size, and boy, did we grow in year 2. We went from 18 staff members to, I think, about 60. And it went from like I forgot what exactly students, but let's just say 350 to over 700 students, so it was a big jump.
Yeah.
For sure.
But so cool still, like I think back on those times, and I know it was stressful, but it was also it was very, there were good times.
Yeah, I think of it like having been pregnant and having children, like it's so intense and hard when you first have children, but really kind of special too. And when you look back on it, you only remember the good parts, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah.
And thank you
I
for
have
all
kinds
that.
of stories,
Oh yeah. Well, and thank you for all the madness that you guys went through to bring us here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was fun. Like I said, I only remember the good parts, really.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna do now. We did this with Mr. Bell, and we're gonna continue. We're calling it Inside the Admin Studio.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a little questionnaire that's gonna help us to know even a little bit more about you, our head admin at our school.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Higgins, you want to ask the first question?
I'd love to. Mrs. Townley, what is your favorite word?
I wrote these down so I could be thinking about them, and I still didn't come up with my exact favorite word. I think one of my favorite words, which I can't even say, this is serious, is, well, I can't say it. So it's the plant that in Finding Nemo that they lived in. That's really hard to say. That's it right there. I think that's what I'm going to pick as my favorite word.
Anemone.
Cool.
All right, I like it.
Once you can say it, like if I had time to practice, it would have rolled right off my tongue and felt so good.
All right.
Say it again. It sounds so nice.
Anemone.
Mm-hmm. Anemone.
Nemo and Marlin lived in an anemone.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Second question. Least favorite word.
Okay, this one I know for sure. It's bored. It's the 5-letter B word that's not allowed to be spoken in my home. Can't take it.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I always tell my students, boredom is a choice. You don't have to be bored. You choose to be bored. That's how I feel.
Yeah, or a habit. I think it's a habit to be bored sometimes.
Yeah.
We're working on it though. So.
I would love to be bored more often, honestly. Just nothing to do. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I also hear too that like boredom should segue to curiosity, and curiosity is an amazing thing that it leads us on to things that we would never anticipate. So.
All right. What sound or noise do you really love to hear?
Laughter.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That's my favorite.
What sound or noise do you hate?
I think that's a harder one. A lot of times I hate silence. So, although I know it can be healthy and good, I think for me, I like that, the background of things like the hustle and bustle. So silence is least hard for me sometimes.
All right. What profession or job other than the one you have would you really enjoy trying?
I think that I think I would like to try being a lawyer, actually, if I got to like give it another go.
Like a specific branch of law, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, given the background I have, maybe educational law, but actually environmental law might be something I was interested in too. I was actually, I was a science major and a science teacher, and actually worked in the science field before I taught a little bit. So I think I could be interested in something like that.
And then what job would you absolutely not want to do?
there's a lot of things I think that I absolutely wouldn't do, and for various reasons. So I think mostly for me, something that like wasn't in the service of other people overall would be uninteresting to me, which I think a lot of things you could argue they were, but I think I don't know. I'm having a hard time nailing down something specific, but maybe like I don't know. Like I don't think I would want to be like a marketing person for someone famous or things like something along those lines. Like that lifestyle and that world don't really appeal to me. So
Yeah.
I'll call it that.
Where you have to schmooze and, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I might have a harder time connecting my work to
Tangible things.
something meaningful for myself.
Yeah.
What makes your day?
What makes my day? Oh my gosh, what makes my day is seeing the people I love most feeling successful, whatever that means for them, honestly. So mainly like my kids, and even like if I just named it right now, like, you know, I have a high schooler who has like a lot of work to do and working hard, like has goals and just trying to make it through all that. I mean, I like to see like kind of the end of the day, like I made it through that like kind of feeling. Yeah. So I think that's what makes my day.
And what would be something that bums out your day?
The opposite of that. You know, they're such a big part of my life, but any day I feel like my kids aren't, or my husband, my family is not feeling like successful, or, you know, that they're having a frustrating day. I like, that bums me out. Like, I don't want to see my people feeling that way.
Yeah.
And last question, on the day that you depart from this world, what do you hope will be said about you?
Okay. That's hard. I think I'd like for people to say that she gave it her best as often as she could. I think that's what I got.
I think that's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for getting deep with us, Miss Townley.
Yeah, that's hard.
Thank you for sharing. And thank you for you're our second-time guest on our show. So kind of a cool milestone, we think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks for breaking that milestone with us. And we'll say goodbye to everybody at home, and we'll see you guys again soon.
Bye, guys.
All right.